Hi everyone, my name is Niall from Corag. This video demonstrates how to add new codes to your existing feature code library in Feature Definition Manager. Also how to create label styles in TBC and link those label styles to your codes in Feature Definition Manager. So first off, I will open up my documents folder and jump into Feature Definition Manager and launch my latest library. So this is my latest updated Corag FXL file. So if I double click on it, it will open my library up in Feature Definition Manager. So these are all my existing codes I have in my library. All the red and white symbols represent point features. All the purple symbols represent linear features. If I click on an example there, point feature, lamppost, it'll bring up all the properties of that particular code. So you have a little preview screen down here. This is the symbol and this is the label style. You have the name, code, feature layer, and the label style, which is the text associated with the point. You also have two dialogues here, attributes and lines and symbols. So the symbols is associated with this obviously, and the attributes are certain bits of information you can add to a survey point that you can key in after it. I'll show you that in a sec. So basically what I want to do here is I want to add two new codes to this library that I'm missing at the moment. I'm missing a code called road sign. It's a point code, and I'm also missing a code that represents a waterway, river, stream or lake, surveying the edge of it. So I'll call that waterway and I'll create a linear feature for that. So first off, I'll create my point feature. So up to new point feature. I want to call this road sign. Sorry. Road sign. I'm going to abbreviate it for my code, just call it RS. I'm going to save it under the category survey codes. That just means it's going to be saved within this folder here. Yeah. Feature layer, so these are all my existing layers. I'm going to create a new layer for this. Call it road sign and assign a color to it. So my label style I'm just going to leave as none for the moment. This will be created later in TBC. So for the moment that's okay. As you can see, my code's created down here, and I have all the properties up here. So the next thing I want to do is add a symbol for this particular code. So if you go over to the lines and symbols dialog, right click and go new symbol. Name, it looks for a name for it, so I just call it RS for road sign. You don't have to put in a description, but it does need a name. And drop down the symbol list and just pick an appropriate symbol that you need for this code. There's one for sign, I'll try that one. I'm going to size it here, so I usually pick ground and put in the size, roughly the size it is on the ground. For this one I'll maybe just put half meter, 0.5, yeah. There's my road sign symbol in my preview screen. So that's all I really need to do for the moment. Now you can add attributes to it if you like. So after you survey that point, you can add in bits of data that you might feel is, you know, an additional comment or a date and time that you measure the point. I'll show you an example of one here maybe. So if you right click on attributes and go new attribute, you can maybe add a field here for text. So after you survey the point, you might want to put additional comments for the road sign if it's damaged or whatever. And in here, maximum length is the amount of characters that you can enter in this dialog. So after you survey the point, you'll get this pop up to say comments. It's optional. You can see here you can make it required, but usually you just set it to optional. So you can add any additional comments you need to add. You can also see here there's a list of different ones. So if you had to stamp a date and time on on that particular code you can. You can add a photo attribute, so you can take a picture of the road sign after you survey it, and this will all come into Trimble Business Center. Another handy one is a list. So if you create a list, you can go type, so type a road sign, and you can just add different types. So you can say add, and you can say stop, giveaway maybe, speed limit, etc, etc. So you can just pick one from the list rather than freehand typing it in. It's up to you. So for the moment I'm happy enough with that. The last thing I need to apply is a label style, but I'll do that a bit later. So I'll create another code here for my waterway. So this time it's going to be a line control code, or a line feature. So name for this, I'm just going to call it waterway code. Let's say WW, save it in survey codes again, and I'll create again a new layer for waterway. I'll pick a color, go with that one maybe. You can pick different line styles here as well. You can see there's one there for watercourse already, but I think I'll just go with a solid line for this one. And again, the point label style is something we'll do in a sec in TBC. So I'm going to OK that. You can see that's my waterway symbol added to the list of codes here. So my next step is to create label styles. So what labels do I want associated with the new codes I created? So you can see examples here of ones I previously done. For example, a control station. There's my symbol, and for every point, every control station that I measure out on site, when I process those codes, it's going to display the point ID, which would be maybe S1 or S2, for example, and then you'll have an easting, northing, and an elevation stamped next to it as a label. So you can apply different labels to different codes depending on what you want to see. So, like an example, a manhole there, 1 point manhole, I just have the name of the actual code and then the cover level, the elevation displayed next to it. For some, I might just have maybe just a name for a post, say, for example. So there's different types of labels you can add. So that's the next step I want to do. I want to create a new label style for the road sign and a new one for my waterway. So to do that, we need to open up Trimble Business Center. So if I launch Trimble Business Center, usually when I'm creating codes I have both of these open at the same time, so I can kind of jump in and out. I'm just going to start a new project and create a blank template. This is blank canvas in TBC. So first thing I want to do is import my latest feature code library, which is this one, FXL. So just drag and drop. I can see it's imported. If I go over to my project explorer here, expand imported files, and there's my FXL. So what I need to do here, I need to jump into the CAD ribbon, jump over to my label style manager, and go into point styles. So these are all my existing point labels I've associated with the codes in feature definition manager. So I want to create a new one here for, first of all, I'll create a new one for my road sign. I already have a layer created for road sign, but what we do with the labels, we put them on a layer called road sign underscore text, for example. It just means that you can toggle the text on and off without turning off the actual symbol or the line when you take it into CAD or TBC. That's the reason we have like an individual label style for every code we create. We find it easier just for your layer management later on. So if I scroll down to the very bottom of that and go to new layer, and we'll call this road sign underscore text. I'll make it the same color as the original code. Okay, that. So style name road sign, layer road sign underscore text. Text style is the height and font of the text, and these are created in the text style manager here. I'll show you that in a little bit, but we have one standard one we use for all our codes. It's 3mm style, so I'll pick that one. So down here you have your label properties, and you have a preview screen of what the label is gonna look like. So if I drop down the label type, I have a long list of different types of labels I can display next to my point. So for a road sign, I don't really want an elevation for it. I'll probably only want the actual road sign feature code as a text, just to annotate it. So there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can either select the feature code and then hit add, and then on your preview screen you can see the point feature will be displayed here. So when you take it back into feature definition manager, this will say RS, because that's what I called my road sign symbol. That's my code, that's what it'll display. But there's also a way where you can just do this manually. If you pick user defined, you can say here, you can actually just type it out, road sign, and add. So when you add multiple features here, the default all on top of each other. So once the label is in orange, it's activated, so you can actually move it around then with these little green arrows, so you can pop up or to place your text wherever you need it to be. And you can add or remove text. So if I said, okay, I don't want this text displayed next to it anymore, I can click on the label I want to remove and just hit remove. And to activate this one, then you have to click on the text, and then becomes active, so you can rotate it or move it around. You can see at the moment, like, this label is going to appear next to that symbol that I created in feature definition manager, so I don't necessarily want the text on top of the symbol. So what I tend to do is up here, gap, millimeter gap, I put in a value. I usually put in 0.25, but I might put in even more here. I might put in maybe 0.35 or something like that. So when I hit enter on that, you can see the spacing between the survey point and the label has increased there for me. So for this one, I think I'm happy enough with that. It's just RS is going to be displayed next to that symbol, so I think I'm okay with that. So the next label style I want to create is one for the waterway. Style name waterway. Again, I'm going to create a new text layer for this, so waterway underscore text. Again, I'll just pick the same color as I used for my existing waterway string. Okay, that text style, I'm going to pick my 0.3 text style again. I'll leave that for the moment. I usually tick this box when I'm making a label for a string or a linear feature. Basically what it does is it rotates the label in a nice way, sitting on top of the line or below the line, depending on which way the line's going. It just means all your labels aren't orientated east to west. They flow with the direction of the polyline. So I tend to take that. It's a nice feature to have. So for my waterway, what would I like displayed as text next to each point I survey? So label type, I'll probably just go with feature code again, WW for waterway. I'll add that first. I'll zoom in on and maybe an elevation as well. So if I drop this down, select my elevation and add, my two labels sitting on top of each other. So the elevation is currently active at the moment, you can see it in orange. So if I move this down and then I activate my point feature and move that down, I might put the two of these underneath the actual symbol. So with a line feature, I obviously don't want my text displaying here because the line's just going to go straight through it. So I'll put them sitting underneath for the linear features, and I'll put the gap here to maybe 0.2, and you can see it's just a bit of space in between the line and the label. Okay, so I'm happy enough with those. If we just OK that and go back into Label Style Manager, it saves it automatically. So you can see if I just go down to my waterway, check my road sign. Okay. Okay. Just a quick note about the text style. So if I go into my text style manager, this is the text style that we use at the moment. But in here you can change the font. So that'll change the font of all the text styles linked to each of those feature codes. You will also change, you can make it bold, italic, or underline it, etc. I usually have this selected, this auto flip tool. Sometimes your text appears, sometimes your text, depending on what way you survey a linear feature, can appear upside down. This auto flip tool will flip the text automatically, so it's nice to have that selected. And the text size, obviously here we have it as 3 mil size text. Okay, so I'm done with create my label styles. So next thing I want to do is to export my new label styles into my feature library. So to do that, just go into my point styles, hit export. I'll usually save these into the same location as my library, so feature definition manager, and I'll just call this correct, dated the 25th, the 1st, 18. Save. So that's my label style. All these label styles saved into the one file. So I can just OK that and minimize TBC for a moment, and then just open back up my feature definition manager and my library. So I'm just going to assign now these new labels to the code. So if I pick a road sign, go over to my label style where it's saying none, and if I go down right down to the bottom here, these are all of my existing ones. If I import styles, and then I pick my latest label style, correct, 25th to the 1st, 18, open, and then I drop down my list. I'm going to select the label style I created in TBC for road sign. So you can see RS is displayed with a space next to my symbol. As you can see, it's still encroaching a little bit, but what you could do is even make that symbol a bit smaller. So if you want to edit the symbol, I can just jump in here and maybe make that 0.35 or something like that. Yeah. So I'm happy enough with that. Next one I want to add is my waterway. So if I jump into my waterway layer, sorry, label style, go down to my waterway label style. Now if I just zoom in on an end of the line, you can see what's displayed next to my every point I survey, just underneath like we placed in TBC. And one last thing is just to put this on its own layer. See the point layer, so if I drop that down and I select my waterway text, so the text is going on a different layer to the actual line itself. Okay, so at this point I'm happy enough with the changes I've made, so I can just save this library. So go File, Save As. This is my last one here, 2017.3, so I'm just going to call it correct 2018. So that's the first revision of our library this year. So save that, and if I jump into my feature definition manager folder, there's my latest library now saved. So that's pretty much it. just be aware, if you do update your library, you need to save this file then onto your logger, onto the TSC3, to update it on that. So this needs to be saved into the system files folder on your logger. Also, you'll need to update, if you have a template set up in TBC, you'll need to update your template. So when you start a new project, if you have templates set up like this, you'll need to just open up the project. Say you have templates set up for ITM Republic of Ireland 2015. I'll just open up my own template. And you just need to tell the software that you've updated the library. So if you go into project settings, and if you go down to feature code processing, you can see there's an old library linked to this current template. So if I just go in here, browse to the new library, correct 2018, open, okay, it's okay, yes. So I've made changes to this template, so I'm just going to overwrite the existing template. So if I go file, save project as template, and pick my ITM Republic of Ireland 2015, and just save and replace the existing template. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching.